even today, most packages are not designed for recovery. They have a lot of other tasks that they have to do. Number one, protecting and containing a product and getting it from point A to point B. Do you agree that most packages aren't designed for recovery?
Yes, I agree. I think that there's a lot of intention, but just the combination of the legacy of that's not being a primary or even sort of top three reasons for them being made, combined with massive infrastructure issues, means that even if it is designed to be recyclable, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's being recovered or recycled anyway.
Okay, so that's a couple of the misalignments. Thanks for explaining that. Recyclers, though, at least here in the United States, complain that the packages aren't designed to be recycled, which we've already agreed with. That, but I think a lot of that relates to separation and sortation of the different materials. But can't we also turn this around and say to the recyclers, why can't you figure out how to recycle the packages that are already in the market? Especially since you also say that it's recycling capacity, not design ambition, that's the limiting factor here. And you also say, quote, the industry is being forced to reckon with system reality, not just design intent. Claims without capacity will increasingly be challenged. I love that. Claims without capacity will increasingly be challenged by regulators, investors, and NGOs alike, unquote. And I might add here that I think those claims are going to be challenged by consumers too.
Yes.
Okay,
And even up and
so
down the supply chain. I know everyone's going to challenge them, basically. Yeah.
okay, great. But why can't why do we have to design for recycling? Why can't recyclers figure out how to recycle what we've already made?
There was a really interesting report by the Recycling Partnership when they were looking at the recycling in the USA a couple of years back. I'm sure the numbers are probably still about the same for the last couple of years, but it was something like 22% of the material that could be recycled ends up actually making it to some kind of recycling facility or ability to be recycled. And essentially 3/4 of it doesn't. And they were blaming the consumers for that because they're saying we're not putting it in the right stream for them to be able to collect it and then do what they need to do with it. And the problem in that was one of access and education. So either they weren't being told what was supposed to go where, so we don't know where to put it, which is one of the bigger issues, or we don't have access to the thing that we're supposed to put it into, in which case we can't put it into it. And those two are the really big ones, which is why when the recyclers kind of complain, it's very difficult because without those two things in place, it's just going to keep on being a misalignment.
Okay, understood. I see about the access. I understand about the access. But on the second piece of this, which I would say is around the sortation, that technology can help with. And I think recyclers are trying to invest in that technology and hoping that the extended producer responsibility laws will give them enough money to invest in that technology. But on the consumer access and education side, the education side of it, I think, could be helped along, not fixed, but helped along by technology for sortation. If they put it in the wrong stream, the recyclers handle that on the back end. Not ideal circumstance, of course, but doable. But in talking about the access in the United States, it's easiest for consumers to recycle at curbside. And so I think a lot of municipalities are trying to help speed that along as well. And is there any other solution to the access part of it that you could maybe help, offer?
There's a couple. The most left field but interesting one is a Canadian option, where they are looking into increasing biodegradation or degradation or compostability through the use of personal garbage bins that would break down the organic waste into compost in the consumer home. So it wouldn't even make it to the curbside because they'd be able to reclaim a percentage of it before it was even going into the waste stream. Then
Okay.
after that process had been completed, they would be able to then hopefully have a smaller amount of residual waste that they can then put into a fixed skip or location where it's more likely that it can be then recovered and collected. So that's one option. The UK is hoping to trial an improvement to curbside by, I think it's the beginning of next year, where that will include things like flexible packaging being collected at curbside as well. So I think part of it is we can help the recyclers by having more uniform and clean processes. So if every state has the same setup, if every way of collecting that recycling was exactly the same or identical and uniform across the states, I think that would make a big difference, because at the moment it's part of the capacity problem is just the fact that you've just got different locations with different budgets and different needs and different kind of outcomes. So if you can make it a bit more uniform, that would also help to improve the rates.
Well, here in the United States, our extended producer responsibility EPR laws are still state by state, and just a couple of states have enacted laws. Oregon right now is the only one that's implementing the law that's been enacted, but it seems like this will still continue, maybe not at the pace that it did initially, but in addition to access and sortation, we also have the third piece to making recycling viable, and that's the economic piece of it, of being able to sell the recyclate once it's been collected and cleaned. Any suggestions on that? Where do we stand on setting up those markets for the recyclate?
I think it's one of the biggest levers that they have available to them, because the moment it's not working, where there is a combination of the recyclate is too much more expensive than the virgin materials, so it's not no sane business decision is going to be based on doing it that way unless they're forced into it. And one of the things that I
forced into it, or can spin it from a marketing point of view and make it economically worthwhile. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was being noted last year was that one of the biggest issues in sustainability or recyclability or circular economy directions is that there is too much of a short-term focus, and so people are trying to kind of make this work for this quarter or this year or this kind of immediate short-term future, and it's not going to ever work that way. So if companies take time out of the equation and just focus on using recycled material because using recycled material is the better option or solution, or is going to comply more directly with the upcoming regulation, that will actually mean that they will reduce the costs of recycled materials because they'll be using it more. So the economies of scale will kick in. But a lot of that is to do with taking time out of the equation. So for the economics to work, the simplest way of doing that is to take a long-term view and realize that increasing recycled content is going to be mandatory across packaging in the next, like 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever the kind of schedule might be. And so it makes sense to figure out how to use recycled content materials rather than kind of fighting it, because it's going to be mandatory, in Europe in August this year. And so they need to kind of align with it rather than keep on fighting it. So the economies of scale, I think the shortest route to unlocking them is to not look at it as a time thing. So, if you kind of sit there thinking, well, I've got a X budget this year and I can only spend Y of it on recycled content, that will get you so far. But if you ignore that and you just think, well, I'm going to need to have 60% of my material recycled, so I need to figure out what that looks like in my packaging formats and across my operations, that will get you to both being compliant and for it to be cost effective a lot faster.
Right. And here in the United States, the EPR laws are being written to talk about the eco-modulation fees and have that be part, at least part, if not more, of the financial incentive to encourage encourage companies to include the recycled content in their new packages. So that might help a little bit. It's not direct as subsidies, but it's pretty close.